On the morning of October 15, 2025, the calm of a critical global shipping lane was shattered. A coordinated series of attacks by a small flotilla of fast-moving boats against several large merchant vessels sent shockwaves through the international community. The event unfolded with surprising speed and precision and immediately captured the world's attention. Grainy news images of smoke and distressed vessels began to circulate, prompting urgent responses from governments and military commands. This was not a conventional act of war between nations. It was a new kind of threat targeting the arteries of global commerce. Leaders had to react quickly while information remained limited. The attacks raised immediate and pressing questions. Who was behind this brazen act of aggression? What were their motives? How could the international community secure these vital sea routes? This essay will provide a clear, chronological breakdown, starting from the first distress calls. We'll examine the key players, the unidentified assailants and the national navies that rushed to the scene, and the swift reactions from governments and international bodies. The goal, a comprehensive 8-minute breakdown with clear takeaways. Understanding the sequence is crucial to grasping the full impact. The initial strike aimed for maximum surprise, exploiting the vulnerability of large, slow-moving commercial ships. As the day progressed, a disturbing pattern emerged. Well-organized, but technologically simple. The international response showed modern communication and alliance networks at work, with naval assets redirected and diplomatic channels active. This was a test of global resolve and cooperation, a direct challenge to the freedom of navigation. The crisis began just after dawn on October 15th. The first reports were fragmented, urgent distress signals from merchant ships transiting a narrow, high-traffic strait at approximately 6 o'clock. A flotilla of small, fast-moving boats appeared and rapidly closed in on container vessels and oil tankers. These were not military-grade warships. They appeared to be modified civilian craft using speed and maneuverability to their advantage. They targeted the less agile ships, striking with a surprising degree of coordination and sowing confusion on bridges and decks. By 8:30, a clear pattern had emerged. The attackers were not attempting to board or hijack. Eyewitness accounts describe the small boats firing upon the ships, aiming for hulls and navigation bridges. In some instances, they tried to physically block the path of massive vessels, creating hazardous congestion. Several ships sustained damage. Localized fires, compromised hulls, with crews prioritizing damage control and calls for assistance. Naval forces mobilized, and by midday, a temporary lull set in, though tension remained incredibly high as news spread globally. International outlets aired satellite images and short, shaky clips showing smoke plumes and dark shapes weaving between commercial giants. Approaching fleets began rerouting to longer, more expensive paths to avoid the danger zone. Aggression resumed on a smaller scale, probing arriving patrols with hit-and-run tactics. By nightfall, the wave subsided. Allied vessels escorted damaged ships and established a secure corridor. The day ended in uncertainty as the world grappled with an audacious new threat to maritime security. At the center of this crisis are the attackers themselves, a group whose identity and motives remain under intense investigation. Authorities describe them as a non-state actor with a clear command structure and a well-defined tactical plan. They utilized a flotilla of modified, commercially available speedboats. Their weaponry was relatively simple, machine guns and light rocket-propelled grenades, yet effective enough to damage large merchant ships and spread fear. The goal was disruption, not plunder, a political statement demonstrating the ability to choke a vital economic artery. The next key players, affected nations and their commercial interests. Targets flew flags from major economic powers and smaller maritime states alike. Citizens, the crews, were placed in immediate peril. Owners faced damaged vessels, delayed cargo, and spiking insurance premiums. Governments were thrust into the role of protectors, responsible for crew safety and continuity of trade. Several countries maintained significant naval presence near the choke point. Their assets were first to respond. Patrol boats, destroyers, and maritime surveillance aircraft surged to the area. Missions were twofold: immediate assistance and a credible presence to deter further aggression. Allied navies coordinated closely, sharing intelligence from satellites, drones, and ship-based radar to track the flotilla. Rapid cooperation helped prevent wider escalation. International bodies convened emergency consultations as maritime safety organizations issued alerts. Countries condemned the attacks, urged restraint, and demanded a full investigation, reinforcing laws on freedom of navigation. The military response was swift and decisively defensive, focusing on protection and deterrence over confrontation. Within hours, convoys formed under escort, creating a protected channel where none had existed. Air assets with advanced radar and optical sensors provided wide-area surveillance, tracking fast boats, and feeding real-time intel. Shared intelligence allowed Allied commands to anticipate movements and position forces optimally. Diplomats coordinated messaging and requested a UN Security Council emergency session. Governments issued travel and maritime advisories, warning citizens and operators to exercise extreme caution. Ports increased protocols, inspecting small craft and monitoring coastal traffic more closely. Measures aimed to constrict attacker freedom, deny support or resupply, isolate perpetrators, and demonstrate unified resolve to protect the seas. The combined military and diplomatic stance underscored global commitment to freedom of navigation. With vigilance maintained, the strait stabilized under a coordinated, round-the-clock security umbrella. Next, the immediate impact on global trade, and what the data tells us. Section 5. Economic Tremors. The immediate impact on global trade. The shipping industry was the epicenter as a vital choke point seized, forcing reroutes. Longer routes added days and fuel costs, creating bottlenecks and delays for oil, goods, food, and medical supplies. War risk premiums spiked. Underwriters quoted sharply higher rates. Costs passed to manufacturers and consumers. Oil futures jumped. Shipping stocks fell. Not catastrophic, but signaling anxiety and repricing of risk. Short-term reaction. Find alternate routes. Long-term. Invest in resilient ports and contingency plans beyond a few choke points. The lesson: efficiency without security creates a fragile system. Section 6. Unanswered questions and the path forward. Despite round-the-clock analysis of debris, intercepts, and imagery, no group has been credibly named and none has claimed responsibility. Who planned? Who funded? Who executed? The answers will shape the strategic response. Forensic teams gather physical evidence. Investigators interview crews, cross-referencing radar and satellite tracks to reconstruct the timeline. Objectives: identify attackers and trace networks. Training sites, bases, funding, and political direction. Escorts are necessary but temporary. A permanent multinational maritime task force is under discussion, with mandate, rules of engagement, and funding to resolve. Merchant fleets must harden. Reinforced bridges and engine rooms, non-lethal deterrence, enhanced tracking, and standardized protocols with naval authorities. Earlier warnings and faster assistance can save lives and cargo, pairing military protection with better self-defense. Section 7. 3 lessons from the flotilla attack. First, small-scale asymmetric threats can have major strategic consequences. A few fast boats, simple weapons, and careful planning can disrupt a global choke point and trigger an international crisis. Second, quick, calm, coordinated cooperation works. Rapid intel sharing, seamless naval coordination, security cordons, escorted convoys. Third, long-term security is multi-layered. Robust diplomacy, stronger laws, enhanced intelligence sharing, and legal accountability. Preventing future attacks requires integrating military, diplomatic, intelligence, and economic tools in a comprehensive strategy. In conclusion, the global flotilla attack revealed how easily commerce can be threatened, and how international teamwork can safeguard the seas. The safety of our sailors and the stability of our economy depend on it.